Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Astoria High School and to Senator Wyden's 2025 Clatsop County Town Hall. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would ask that you please stand if you are willing and able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, once again, thank you all for joining us. I'm Sean Fitzpatrick, and I'm proud to say that I am the mayor of the coolest city on the planet, Astoria, Oregon. And with us today, we have some other elected officials. Included among them are my fellow city councilor, Liz Adams, Tita Montero from the city of Seaside City Council, Seamus McVeigh from the city of Seaside City Council. We have our commission chair, Mark Quila, with us. And have I missed any other elected officials here? Great. Thank you for joining us. And I'm sorry, from here, it's hard to recognize faces in the crowd. We've got a lot of light over there. So, in fact, I should probably put my hat back on. Much better. So before I introduce Senator Wyden, I'd like to go over the format for asking questions. And the process is as follows. Each person who wants to ask a question of the senator should have gotten a ticket as they were coming in. And if you still want a ticket, please get one right now. You can get it either from the entry where you came in, or we will have a staff member come and provide you with a ticket. So what I'm going to do is I will call out the last three digits on two different tickets. And the person to ask a question and the person who will ask next. I might even call out three numbers so you can be prepared. And when your number is called, we ask that you please raise your hand or stand up so that a staff person with a microphone can find you. And then they will check your number and then you can ask your question. And when the senator is finished answering, I will call the next two numbers, and in the interest of time, we ask that you please keep your questions concise so that the senator has the opportunity to engage with as many people as possible. I would like to remind everyone that open to all community gatherings, such as this town hall, only work if everybody respects a person's right to speak after I call on them when their ticket is drawn. And I recognize that many people hold strong views, which I respect. I ask that everyone please respect the process throughout this town hall. And please do not confront anybody with whom you disagree or who may not be following the rules designed to keep things orderly and to keep everybody safe. So I'd now like to introduce the senator, but first I'd like to specifically thank Senator Wyden for fighting for Tongue Point and Job Corps, for his efforts to release BRIC funding for Columbia Memorial Hospital, and for supporting infrastructure funding for the Port of Astoria. Now I am pleased to introduce Senator Wyden to Astoria and to Clatsop County for his 1,134th town hall meeting throughout the state of Oregon. This town hall is a part of the commitment Senator Wyden made to Oregonians when he was elected to the U.S. Senator, when he was elected as a U.S. Senator in 1996, namely to hold an annual town hall in every one of Oregon's 36 counties. When Senator Wyden is in Washington, D.C., representing all of us in the United States Senate, he serves as ranking member of the Senate Finance Committee and is also a member of the Senate Committees on Budget, Intelligence, and Energy and Natural Resources. Senator Ron Wyden. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mayor. And it's so good to be home and to be with all of you. Where are the Goonies? All right, we got a little business we're going to do first. We got a short presentation. This is the 40th anniversary of the Goonies. So, David, can you come on up?
How's he going to get it?
Yeah, he's... Let's give him a round of applause. So many cool things happen in Astoria, and the Goonies is right at the top of it. Let's give him a big round of applause, and please say a word or two.
Thank you. I am director of the Chamber of Commerce, but I also happen to be the vice president of the Clatsop County Historical Society, which, if you don't know, operates the Oregon Film Museum. And this year we helped to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the movie The Goonies being made in and about Astoria. And we welcomed about 12,000 people from around the world to our little town. And they are avid fans. They love us. They're very loyal. And we love having them come. So we're fans of the fans.
Thank you. Give them a round of applause. Next item of business, we're proud of so many things that we're doing in Oregon. You know, we get a few insults from the Trump people like yesterday and that sort of thing. But when I say we've got the greatest airport in the United States, everybody's quiet. But another bit of good news, we lead the league in fighting cancer. And that is because in the House, we have the amazing, the inimitable Dr. Brian Drucker, who is our senior advisor in the fight against cancer. Phil and Penny Knight know how to pick winners. Let's give him a big round of applause. I can't hear you. And he's doing a lot of work to help the hospital here. Where's Dr. Brian Duty? Dr. Brian Duty is here. Dr. Jimmy Heilman is here. Nancy Williams is here. Chris Lehman is here. Let's give all of them a big round of applause. People were saying I delivered the hospital. The reality is the community delivered the hospital. I got so many calls. There was just no way we weren't going to be there. So this is exciting. How about a round of applause for the mayor? You know, if the mayor's got a couple of mansions, he's got a whole fleet of drivers and stuff. He's doing it because he loves your community. Give him a round of applause. So this is town hall meeting number 1,134. Yeah. And nobody in the history of Oregon government had ever made a commitment like this. In fact, when I started, people didn't even know how many counties we had. And we said we're going to throw open the doors of government. And we're doing that today. And I want to say, because I know there'll be plenty of people here who are going to disagree with me on one or more issues, this is our chance to show off the First Amendment. Every single person from my end is going to get a chance to say what is on their mind. Period, full stop. And I do not have all the answers, not just in the Middle East, but elsewhere. My wife can call up at 11 o'clock in the morning and say, you blew that vote at 9:30, Buster. And she's usually right. So I don't have all the answers, but what I do know is this is what the Founding Fathers wanted it to look like. On a warm day, when there were plenty of things you could do besides educating me, the community turned out. So there are no subjects that are off limits. Let's go right to questions, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
So our first two numbers are 344 and 340. See a hand raised there.
Oh, you're going to hold it. Okay. Okay, I'm Nancy Canal, and I'm a native Astorian. That means something here still, I think. But first of all, I want to thank you for being here. I figure if you could navigate and get here around the hood to coast traffic, I need to be here to support you. And also, you cool off on the coast, right? 100 degrees up there. But my point is, first of all, I want to thank you personally. I'm honored and I'm so proud to say you're my senator. You have been the one person that keeps me having hope, standing up to all the above. You know what I'm talking about. But
Got an idea.
yeah, you do. But right now, my biggest concern is the mail-in voting that's going wild. And to me, it's obvious. It's how do I say, another tactic to suppress voting. And Oregon and Washington are the gems. We have a fine, polished, oiled machine for doing mail-in voting. Now, I got a 93-year-old mother that worked in elections for 50 years down at our courthouse, and there was never a flaw, never fraud, never none of that. And so I just feel like I know it's in the Constitution that the states have control how we vote, but how do you handle Trump trying to overrule that or use federal power? Are we going to keep our mail-in voting? That's what I'm concerned about.
First of all, I never expected that Vladimir Putin would advise an American president against vote by mail. That's what happened this week. How many of you think we ought to keep Oregon's vote by mail? Let's have a show of hands. I can't hear you. So there's a little bit of history here that also is very important. I'm the nation's first senator elected completely by mail. As you know, I'm a Democrat. The second United States senator elected by mail was my friend Gordon Smith, a Republican. So the first two senators elected in our state, one Democrat, one Republican. Perhaps more important than either of those is the late Dennis Richardson, who always used to joke with me that he was the most conservative person alive. He basically told Donald Trump that he was off base during Trump 1 with respect to vote by mail, because the Trump people recruited very hard to get Mr. Richardson, who was so extraordinarily respected, to join him. And he said, no, there hasn't been any fraud. We've monitored this very, very well. And the reality is we need Oregon-type vote by mail more than ever before, because the idea of having that voter's pamphlet, so for a couple of weeks almost, you can hold the pamphlet, you can look at your choices, you can tell your kid to take a nap so you can read it, or read it in the bathroom, or whatever you want to do. But the point really is, it's one of the best ways to give people a chance to discuss at the local level specifics, not just the TV commercials and the like. So I want to take Oregon's vote by mail national. I don't want to contract it, I want to expand it. And I think the country is with us, because I've been introducing this legislation now for some time. And during COVID, I was stunned that I'd be walking around an airport far from Oregon, and people would say, "You're Ron Wyden, you're that basketball player, I know who you are. You got your bill passed to have vote by mail." And I would kind of listen and I'd say, "Well, there's a little more to the story. Yeah, you're a cool guy. You got your bill passed, and especially during this horrible, time of COVID." And I would say, "I just want you to know my bill didn't pass, but the people of your state said that they wanted to do vote by mail during COVID because they wouldn't get to vote otherwise." So I think there's a lot of support for this. I think it's going to grow. We're going to have to reach out to people who are friends and acquaintances all over the country, but I think we can keep it, and Donald Trump cannot get rid of our vote by mail by executive order.
Next up is 340, and then we will have 352, followed by 323.
Hi, Senator Wyden. My name's Isaiah Kaplan. I'm one of your constituents who lives out here on the coast. I'm also one of your Jewish constituents. Over the last almost 2 years now, Israel has been prosecuting a genocide in Gaza. This has been called out by Amnesty International, B'Tselem, an Israeli human rights organization. It's also been called out at the ICC and the ICJ. Which has put out indictments for Prime Minister Netanyahu. You recently voted against the Block the Bombs resolution. The Block the Bombs resolution was a bill that blocked specific bombs that had been used to kill the most numbers of civilians in Gaza. This is a genocide, and you seem to support it. I feel like that breaks with Oregon's values. So my question for you is, why did you vote not to block the most deadly bombs? These aren't all weapons. The most deadly bombs going to Israel. And why do you support the genocidal state of Israel, which is also an apartheid state, in violation of the Genocide Convention and the Leahy Law?
First of all, I think what we see on our screens in Gaza all day long now is such a violation of humanitarian principles and basic decency. I oppose it strongly. I've supported every effort.
Why haven't you taken action?
Would you like me to answer your question?
Not if you lie.
I'd like to just finish again my answer because the gentleman's making an important question. Well, for example, yesterday I came out for an effort to stop the settlers from interfering with humanitarian aid. I've joined a number of my colleagues in legislative efforts to do it. I'm going to continue to do it. I think Bibi Netanyahu is more interested in self-preservation than the well-being of the Israeli nation, and I think that's at the heart of the problem. Now, with respect to the other side of the coin, Hamas, which is committed to killing...
That's not your question.
You support consistently to send bombs and weapons to Israel. You voted to permanently defund
Miss, this isn't your question. Let's be respectful.
The history...
We don't want to hear about
Please stop talking. Let him answer the question.
History has shown what has happened.
I asked earlier that if you have strong opinions that you not
History
confront
has
people
shown
with whom you disagree.
what
We would
has-
ask that you please be quiet and allow... Anybody else here want the rest of this to go on? Show of hands. Okay, so let him finish his questions.
Okay.
If your number is drawn, you will have a chance to ask
The
a question.
gentleman is absolutely right about the barbaric nature of the anti-human rights practices in Gaza. I agree.
Please stop talking.
I agree with his views on that. With respect to Israel, history has shown what has happened when the Jewish people are abandoned and alarmed in the world.
That's bullshit.
I would be glad.
Solidarity, not for bombs. Bombs only. Israel's the least safe place to be Jewish in the entire world right now. Where have more people who are Jews been killed anywhere in the world in the last decade?
The history.
Israel is the least safe place.
The history is clear. Let's go on to the next question.
We cannot achieve.
You've asked your question. You've asked your question. Please sit down. Please sit down and let's go on to the next question.
You take money from AIPAC. You consistently vote to send weapons and money to Israel. No matter how many hospitals get bombed, no matter how many children get starved, no matter how many civilians get murdered, no matter how many...
Okay. So, who holds ticket 352?
I have another question over here.
Ticket 352.
We have a question over here, please. Thank you.
If we could have hand raised of who has ticket 352. Great.
Number 352.
We will follow that with ticket 323. And we appreciate those of you who are respecting the others in here.
Where is number 352?
Right here.
Right there.
And it's 352. Thank you so much.
Okay. Do we have 352?
352 right
Hi.
here.
My name is Dr. Alex Cooper. I'm a family physician here in the community. I just want to first say that I'm also disappointed by your vote and would wish that you would please vote in the future to stop any arms going to Israel. That is not the issue I'm here to address today.
I couldn't hear the second part of your sentence.
I actually have a medical
Yes.
related question that I would like to speak on. Providence Seaside Hospital has recently announced that they will be closing their maternity unit. This is a critical access hospital providing essential services to the community, and it is yet another example of a hospital that is pursuing more of a profit motive when they shouldn't. They are a nonprofit system because they are losing money on their maternity unit. We know that maternity units lose money. That is the reality of operating a maternity unit. And it is very heartbreaking to see these units close because not only does that mean that maternity services are leaving the community, it means that the gynecologists who provide those maternity services will leave the community and not be there to provide gynecologic care for other patients as well. I would like to know what you can do on the federal level to ensure that maternity care does not continue to leave rural areas of the United States. And I feel strongly that this is an area where bipartisanship could come into play because everyone can support maternity care in rural areas.
Very important point. And I call them maternity deserts because I think that's what we're dealing with. And I was in Baker City a couple of years ago. It was an incredibly hot day, much hotter than this. I expected 15 people because they liked the lemonade, and I found out that they were really there because nobody could deliver their babies. So I've introduced legislation, federal legislation, to change that. I particularly think that Medicaid ought to be expanded, not cut, and the extra money should go to places that are handling the kind of maternity services you're talking about. In the fall, I'm going to try to push to take back some of the tax breaks for the billionaires and put them into the Medicaid account because I think this is a crazy set of priorities. It ought to change and it ought to focus on health care.
Next up is 323, followed by 299.
We got to get him a runner.
Hello, Senator Ron Wyden. Today is day 687 of the U.S.-Israeli genocide on Gaza, which is the Holocaust of our time. You recently voted against two Senate resolutions sponsored by Bernie Sanders that would have halted the delivery of 1,000-pound bombs to Israel and fully automatic rifles to the IDF. Both resolutions unfortunately failed, but Senator Merkley voted for the two resolutions while you did not. You have consistently voted for every military aid package for Israel, even though it is crystal clear that Israel is not defending itself. It's committing a genocide of the Palestinians in Gaza with the full, complete destruction of their homes, universities, hospitals, ancient religious and cultural sites, while using starvation as a weapon. The images of skin and bones starving Palestinian children should sadden and anger every human being who has a moral compass. You refuse to sign a letter calling for the end of support for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation as evidence of war crimes and ethnic cleansing have emerged at their aid distribution sites. Sending war weapons to Israel is a violation of the Leahy Law and the Genocide Convention. The Leahy Law requires the U.S. government to suspend military aid to any country involved in consistent human rights violations. And you can go back to 2014 or before and see that Israel has been violating human rights for a very long time, consistently. Therefore, our tax dollars are being used illegally. You are complicit in the Gaza genocide. My question is, why do you refuse to stop arming Israel, knowing that it has destroyed most of Gaza while Hamas is undefeated? And secondly, because Israel has launched an unprovoked attack on Iran that nearly dragged the U.S. into World War III. Hamas is stronger today than ever, with plenty of young men ready to join the resistance fighters to avenge the deaths of their families and friends. None of this is helping Israel, as its economy is in dire straits and 500,000 Israelis have reportedly left the country. Israel's latest ongoing atrocity is the demolition of Gaza City, which is the oldest city on earth. My question is, why do you refuse to stop arming Israel, knowing that it's destroyed much of Gaza and almost dragged us into World War III?
Let me pick up where we were earlier with the first question and the person who spoke from the floor. I couldn't agree more about the unacceptable nature of what is going on in Gaza. I think Bibi Netanyahu is responsible to a major degree for it. Here's where I think we have to go right now. This is the key. And I was stunned this morning because I was up very early and I saw a Palestinian woman and an Israeli man come on TV, I think it was CNN, saying, we've never been on a program like this. The two of us believe that if we don't take some steps to do something differently, this is going to go on and on and on, and we don't want it. And the announcer said, what are you going to do? And they said they wanted to retool a two-state solution. I think that's the way to go. I support it. That's what I'm for.
Let's be respectful.
How about you respect us and not lie?
I answered the question.
Okay, next question.
So, who's holding card 299?
299, right there.
And we will follow that with 274 and 343.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Senator.
We're on 299. Thank you.
Unfortunately, during the current political age, it seems like norms and rules and sometimes agreements have kind of gone away. And in the Senate, it seems like that happened a little bit with more than a little bit with the rescission bill, which is really reneging on commitments in terms of that. The Senate, as a body, for the most part, historically has been the place where things kind of slow down and are calmer than in the House. At least it's supposed to be. What can be done, what is being done to try to prevent another rescission bill, which really is just reneging on all the past agreements that had already been approved by Congress, including funds that affect places like here?
I believe the rescission process that's being used just stomps all over the United States Constitution. I mean, this basically takes the role of Congress, which is the legislative branch, out of the picture. In other words, the way legislation is written, I'm the ranking Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee. That's where I work on the maternal bill that our friend spoke so eloquently about. You work in the committee on a legislative basis. You process a piece of legislation. Eventually, if it's going to move forward, Democrats and Republicans that have agreed, and it goes to the floor. What the people pushing rescission want to do, and this is Mr. Vogt, the guy on the far right, who's basically saying the Congress really isn't a force anymore. He said that. Bipartisanship and the Congress really aren't a force anymore, are trying to stomp all over the Constitution. And we're sending the message right now to the Republican leadership that this sword cuts both ways. It cuts both ways, and both sides ought to recognize what's at stake. We always talk in the Congress about nuclear options and basically saying this is where we draw the line. This is where I draw the line in terms of the process for Congress. And to walk out after you've passed a piece of legislation the Democrats and Republicans have passed is extreme, even by today's standards, and I'm going to fight it every step of the way.
So we've got 274, and then we will follow that with 343 and 273. So who is 274?
It's like in the Senate, he yields the floor.
Please.
Sir.
I would like to hear you.
Wait.
Get it back to you, David.
Is David 274?
He's 274.
Okay.
So, and he passed it.
Your analysis of the current situation regarding the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Putin practically every day seems to pick up another advantage or two in this process. You know, when we had the big, meeting, we brought out the red carpet and all of the pomp and the circumstance, and the whole idea was we were going to get a ceasefire between the Ukrainians and the Russians, and if we didn't get one, there would be, quote, consequences. We didn't get one, there were no consequences. Immediately after that, there was discussions about a three-way kind of meeting. That hasn't gone anywhere. I think it's going to be hard to make this get some leverage and to take off unless Donald Trump is tougher, unless we're tougher on Donald Trump. Because I think Donald Trump, Mr. Putin, we have to be tougher on Mr. Putin because otherwise it looks like he's getting a pass. And I think Donald Trump has given a pass to Putin so far, and we've got to change that. We've got to have some real leverage on Putin. That's going to make a difference. So far, we haven't shown any. And I think there are a variety of ways we can do it with sanctions and others, but we've got to put some leverage on Mr. Putin. And that original performance with Zelensky just set the mood.
Okay. Next up, 273, followed by 282. Who has 273? Right here. And who has 282? Great.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Wesley Waite from Astoria. My question is regarding Jeffrey Epstein. It's a very talked about subject. It's been going on for way more than a decade. And you're on the Finance Committee. And there has to be more to this than just protecting a few important individuals. Is he a conduit for all this black money that we are seeing in the country?
Here's what we know. This is representative of a rigged system. A poor person would never have gotten away with this. Jeffrey Epstein had the support of billionaires, and he was procuring women for them and the like. He worked it out so the banks looked the other way. He made sure the IRS looked the other way. He had his henchmen working. And all of this took place with the either unwillingness to do anything or the consciousness that this could be just a rigged system and nobody would ever catch it. I sent my investigators in 3 years ago, And they've gone to the place where you can really find out what's going on. That's the follow the money trail at the Treasury. And so we found that Jeffrey Epstein sent 4,750 wire transfers. And most of them were about procuring women, young people, girls, and the like. We found that he had another string of wire transfers through Russian banks. Just think about that. We've been talking about the dangers of giving Putin a free pass in the foreign policy arena. Now we're giving him a free pass in the financial arena. And I'm going to stay with this because Pam Bondi doesn't want you to know what's going on. She's the Attorney General, and she wants to keep everything under her kind of province at the Justice Department. And we're never going to get the story out. I think the only way we get the story out is to get the records from the Treasury Department. They are there now. We know for a fact that they are there now. And I'm committed to getting them out. I don't think this is a blue or a red issue. I think this is a question of whether you're going to do something about corruption and a rigged system. And I'm going to stay with it until two things happen. We get all the information, and then we start the reforms so that doesn't happen again, starting with the banks, where the banks couldn't go off and hide what was Mr. Epstein doing. Thank you. But you see the kind of train in which the corruption, takes place. You see, Putin getting a free ride, with respect to Ukraine. You see Putin getting a free ride with respect to weapon systems. You see Putin getting a free ride in terms of, his people, his supporters and the like, having a chance to use these wire transfers. We've got to crack down on the corruption, and that's what I'm committed to doing. And the Finance Committee is the only place where anybody has talked about follow the money. Everything else is all about listening to Pam Bondi. I don't think that's going to get us anywhere. What I just described is the way we'll get to the bottom of this.
Good afternoon. This relates to the state of Oregon. It's not international. But is the waiver of federal income tax for forest fire victims going to be renewed at the end of the year, or is it done at that point?
Nope, I want to get it renewed. We're talking about making sure that the people who got clobbered with the fires get a reasonable tax treatment of their expenses as they try to get back. It's expiring at the end of the year. I'm going to get it renewed. Yeah, thank you.
Next up will be 334, followed by 322. And while we are looking for those numbers, I would point out that I believe that Barb Knopp, the mayor of Cannon Beach, is here. Barb, is that you?
My wife and I were married in front of Haystack Rock, Mayor. Thank you.
I can't see beyond the fourth row, so I do apologize for not recognizing you earlier. So 334 and then 322.
Curtis Regner. I live here in Astoria, and I've been very concerned with this administration's hostility towards science, ranging from NOAA fisheries being largely defunded, the National Institutes of Health firing many research, including cancer researchers. It's hard to comprehend why this administration is so against science and scientific progress. So my question to you is, what can be done to, if not blunt this, then restore it once Democrats gain control of the House or Senate?
Well, first thing, you're right. And in a few days, Bobby Kennedy is going to come before the Senate Finance Committee. And one of the areas that I'm going to be digging into is he claimed that we were going to do research on vaccines. All he's doing is making it harder for families to get that vaccine. I'm particularly worried about the situation this fall. And for 5-year-olds, those will be the questions I'll be zeroing in on with Robert Kennedy in a few days. And the reality is, at the Institutes of Health and so many of our health researchers, we're making a big mistake walking away from the stage for science, not just here, but around the world. And I hope in the Budget Committee we can start straightening that out, because we're going to regret it.
Next up, we've got 322, followed by 332. 322.
The other day, a bunch of students had their number called, and they were too shy, so they wouldn't say anything. So one of the students said, "This Senate dude looks serious," and said, "Do you think if we don't ask our question, he's going to come to our house and ask it in front of our parents?" We're not going to do that, but let's have some more questions. Yeah.
Great. Senator Wyden, thank you for your work with opposing Medicaid cuts, as well as your work to release the Epstein files. I really appreciate that as a survivor. Wanted to just comment that the link with Jeffrey Epstein and also Robert Maxwell, the father of Ghislaine Maxwell, they've been cited as intelligence assets for Israel as well as several other countries. And Robert Maxwell is also buried in Israel in the Mount of Olives, which is only reserved for the highest state dignitaries. And I wanted to ask, will you hold Israel accountable for its involvement with child pedophiles? And also, Israel and the U.S. is funding a genocide. Will you, 1, call for a ceasefire, 2, support an arms embargo, 3, let in humanitarian aid by opening north and south borders, as well as 4, no longer take AIPAC money and get foreign money out of our elections? Thank you.
First of all, I will not tolerate any country engaging in lawless practices that promote sex trafficking, period, end of speech. Second, in terms of, if you're asking me about any particular person, I'm on the Intelligence Committee. You can't get into classified materials, so I can't respond to that. But I feel very strongly that on the basic proposition of what you're asking for is making sure that no country gets a free ride with respect to this horrendous offense of sex trafficking, and I apply the same standard, no lawlessness anywhere.
Thank you for standing in support of survivors. Please oppose the genocide and an arms embargo. No longer funding weapons to Israel. And please support a ceasefire and the entry of full humanitarian aid to starving children in Gaza. Thank you.
3-2. 332, if you could identify yourself. Great. And that will be followed by 304, which will be followed by 333. So if 304 could identify themselves as well.
We have 332 here. I'm watching the news, or trying to watch the news now. It's really hard.
Yeah.
And time after time, I keep seeing things that are overturning monies that were supposed to be given, in particular for Corporation for Public Broadcasting, but things like that all over the place. What is it that I can do?
The single best thing you can do is blow the whistle. When you see something, tell me and others about it. And second, help us to multiply our supporters for change. So, for example, I was able to block the Trump people from freezing Medicaid early on. They had that budget freeze, and they wanted to freeze the Medicaid portals for the seniors on medicine and nursing homes and the like. And I basically heard about it from some allies that I knew from Grey Panthers, and I wasn't sure that it was going nationwide, but I said, I'm going to take a risk. And I put it out online saying, all over the country, access to Medicaid, the Medicaid portals for medicine and nursing homes is being blocked. And 3 hours later, the Trump people stopped blocking it. So pressure can work. We need a lot more of it on a lot of other issues. We had a mention of, science here and sex trafficking and the like. But I'm a believer that political change doesn't start at the top and come down. It's grassroots up and moves, it's grassroots at the bottom and moves up. And that's the way we get political change.
.304 followed by 333. Could 333 identify themselves?
Senator Wyden, thank you very much for being here. My name's Larry Lockett, and I appreciate you eating all of the hatred and frustration that our country is experiencing, and you're the tip of the spear, and I appreciate you taking all of our frustrations out. Which leads me to my question. We have become a very divided nation. The Democratic Party can't unite because of frustrations about things that are happening within the Democratic Party. The Republican Party has managed to unite about a third of their population, of our population, and that united front is able to carry a lot of states and carry a lot of power because of that. What do we do as a country to bring ourselves back to a country that works together and compromises?
One of the first things I say to Democrats is it's important to get out and talk to people who don't agree with you, because I think there's such a temptation to just kind of talk to your base. So I have in the last few weeks been in 5 or 6 counties where Donald Trump won 70% of the vote. And people say, why do you come? There aren't very many people. There's more cows than people. And then once somebody said, and the cows aren't for you either. But when I've been out in those visits, folks, I've talked about the fact that we're all going to be hurt by this Trump health care program, not just the millions on Medicaid, but pretty soon everybody here is going to get their health insurance premium notice if you have coverage, and you're going to see those went up. And that's because of cost shifting. So we're in it together. And that's part of the message of bringing people for solutions. I went to Canada. I took Senator Lisa Murkowski to talk about the fact that these tariffs, are really taxes and they're hitting our small businesses and the like. We got a good reception, and now it looks like there may be some progress made on the tariff issue. Yesterday, the Canadian Prime Minister indicated that he felt that they were close to an actual agreement. So the answer is talk about real issues, be very specific, and try to find common ground when you come out of the gate.
So 333, which will be followed by 341, if you could identify yourself, and 286, if you can be prepared.
Hi, Senator Wyden, thank you for coming to Clatsop County. I'm Marilyn Lane. I've lived in this county for about 20-some years. I appreciate that someone brought up the vote by mail issue. That scares me. And I think just the very fact that that our free election system in this country is in great danger. And I don't know, I guess my question is, how best can we work toward either overturning the Electoral College? I guess that's it. How can we, as citizens, overturn the Electoral College?
Well, the better step, it seems to me, is to get rid of Citizens United, the horrible campaign decision which basically says that the rich guy's checkbook is the same thing as it's the poor guy's soapbox, which I think is preposterous because the rich guy's checkbook buys him a lot more influence than the poor guy's soapbox. I do favor getting rid of the Electoral College. I think it's going to be a tougher, political battle because you have all these small states that have counted on representation, but I think a lot of them are starting to see that their votes don't count either. With respect to the upcoming election, I can tell you the Senate and the House is already working on ways to protect the vote. I would encourage everybody in your community, in your street, in your neighborhood to look for ways to watchdog the vote, because there's no question that this year even the reapportionment process was brazenly to alter the vote. It was set up to alter the vote, and fortunately we in Oregon have understood that reapportionment is basically about math and fairness, and we worked ours out. But other parts of the country are not, and it seems to me the Trump administration wants to exploit this and take advantage of it, and we've got to be very vigilant.
341, followed by 286, and then 270. So if 286 could identify themselves, 341.
It was so quiet in your area, I saw you immediately.
Hi, thank you for coming out today. I do want to ask you to support the ceasefire in Gaza. And my question, what steps are being taken to protect the members of our community who are Latino or immigrants who are feeling a lot of fear right now about ICE?
Yeah. I had a long meeting yesterday with Senator Merkley and Congresswoman Dexter to meet with all of the groups that we were talking about the issues that you're mentioning, deportation and the like. For example, I've introduced legislation that said that these people couldn't go around masked, because I think when you have the masks, you're basically signaling you're part of an authoritarian society. So we talked about how you could have, and I feel very strongly, have a policy that says, look, if somebody is engaged in violence or terrorism and the like, they're not going to get an advantage in our laws and our policies. But that's not what's going on. We see people being swept off the streets and practically thrown off in a corner, hoping that they'll go away. And we talked yesterday for well over 2 hours, all of the statewide groups, myself, Senator Merkley, and Congresswoman Dexter. We'll have some more to say about it, but 3 cheers for you for saying that the rule of law and due process applies to everybody. It just doesn't apply to people who are at the top.
$286. All right, then 270. 257.
Are you 257? Somebody else may be 25.
We have 257.
Great.
My name is Jim Allegria, and I'm on the Clatsop Community College Foundation Board. So my question is, what are you planning on doing to help support community colleges in general and career technical education specifically?
Let's give them a big bravo. I can't hear you. Well, I was out with your president as he was making his way around the country. I think that this is urgent business, and in particular with AI, we need to have a major retraining program and an updating of people's skills. I've introduced legislation on this point called the Algorithm Accountability Act to give us a chance to sort of update our skills, because the logical place to do this is the community colleges. They've got the facilities, they've got the people who are savvy at both technical skills and scientific kind of questions. And if you take a look at the Algorithm Accountability Act, you'll get a sense of what I'm trying to do with community colleges. They ought to play front and center in trying to have our country retool for the jobs that we're going to need in the future. Great question. Thank you.
And then, did we miss 286? Okay, 257. Let's try 335. $317. Am I pulling from the right basket here?
People are getting shy.
269.
Where'd
269.
Where'd the bingo card come from?
And we will follow 269 with 328. So if you could identify yourself as well.
Yes, my name is Eileen Millsap. I'm from Gerhardt. And the other night when I was watching the news, I was horrified to see what was going on in Washington, D.C. with armed security, police, federal agents. And I feel that it's coming to us here in Oregon. What can we do? What can you do to protect ourselves from military on our streets?
I don't think there is anything resembling a defensible legal foundation for what's going on in Washington, D.C. And in fact, the crime rates have been going down there. They've worked really hard and the crime rates have been going down. And my sense is that what we have to do is build a coalition when we come back, Democrats, Republicans, people who understand the rule of law, and say, we are not going to sit by and let our streets be taken over this way. The notion of a role for the federal government would be if there was threats to the republic, not something like this, which looks like politics, and Donald Trump making his own decisions about what's going on when the crime rates are going down. So my concern is that right when Congress comes back, we take this up before it spreads to other parts of the country, namely Portland.
Okay, 328. See a hand there. That will be followed by 336. If you could identify yourself, and if 365 could be prepared.
Hi, Senator Wyden. I've followed you all along, all through the Gray Panthers, and I'm a lifelong Oregonian, born in where was I born? Deschutes County. First baby born in Deschutes County in 1961, so it's nice to see you here and hear what you have to say about all these things, complicated things. I'm just going to read my question to you. I'm concerned about the law. I thought we were all subject to the law, that we were all citizens subject to this law, but it just seems like those who are powerful, those who have money, those who demonize people who they disagree with, seem to be sidestepping the law, using it to their own advantage. So give me faith. I want you to give me faith in the law and this system called the democracy, the one that we have all cherished and abided by. Give me faith in the law.
The best... What I'm going to take out of here tonight is that on a hot summer day, a big crowd came out and basically said, we want to hold government accountable. There have been a lot of people saying that they disagree with me. I get that. And there are a lot of, tough issues. We had mention of, Putin. I think Putin's getting a free pass. I think he's getting a free pass in Ukraine. I think he's getting a free pass on a whole host of issues. I'm trying to use my seat on the Intelligence Committee and the Finance Committee to hold him accountable. But my hope and my reason for always saying that we're going to get this right, might not be in the next 15 minutes, but we're going to get this right, is that this room was full of patriots. I'm sure there are people who are conservative, liberal, whatever political party you're in, but they all wanted a better America. And my confidence is grounded in what I'm looking at now, the faces of democracy, people who are asking serious issues. The last question came from a woman in the fifth row about Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is thousands of miles away from this county. But you understood what was at stake here, because if we don't get it right and protect people's rights, it'll come to Oregon. So that's the reason I'm going to walk out of here in a 45-minute time zone or something, whatever it is, and say, thank you. Thank you to this county. Thank you to patriots. Thank you to people who give a damn, because this is how we're going to come back.
Hey, 336, which will be followed by 365. Do we have a 365? If you could raise your hand. Got it. Thank you.
Hello. We're standing in the Astoria High School auditorium. This is where my children go to school. My son stood up there and he performed in his high school band. I've been in here numerous times.
I'm just having a little trouble hearing.
So we're standing where my children perform. My children attend school, where my children are safe and fed and loved in this community. In Gaza, there are not schools anymore. They have all been leveled. In Gaza, there have been more than 20,000 children reported killed. That is twice the population of the city of Astoria. There have been more than 60,000 civilians killed. That is larger than the population of Clatsop County. More people have been reported killed than people that you will see today. So my question is this: what specifically are you personally doing for a ceasefire in Gaza?
First thing I'm going to do when Congress comes back next week is introduce tough legislation calling for penalties if people abuse the laws as it relates to helping people with humanitarian assistance in Gaza. I think they've done that repeatedly. I think in Netanyahu's cabinet they've done it. The settlers seem to be doing it again based on what we heard. And I think that tough penalties for that kind of activity is something that will definitely give us a tool to reduce the suffering and the violence and the killing in Gaza.
Stop arms from going to Gaza?
It's going to be increase the penalties for people, fines, sanctions, criminal proceedings, all of the tools you need to send them. When you see someone like myself, a senior member of the Intelligence Committee, holding the Netanyahu cabinet accountable, I think it sends a message you can't get away with it.
365, if you could identify yourself, 365. Great, and we will follow that with 266.
We have 3565 here.
Should I come out here?
Oh, yeah.
Got a question?
365.
Hi, Senator. Thank you for making your way out of D.C. and the district. I used to work there when I was in the Coast Guard. I'm a 30-year veteran in the Coast Guard, and I was proud to serve my country. And thank you. Coast Guard is they just love Astoria just loves the Coast Guard. I really appreciate the mayor and everyone else. We're a Coast Guard city as well. My question is ICE. My concern is ICE from a citizen's standpoint. I'm very, very concerned. My parents came here from Hungary back in 1956. They came to Pennsylvania, worked their way to the West Coast, and my brother and I served the country for he did 30, I did 30, and my last name is Arabic, and I've been an ambassador for the country, New Zealand, Nelson, New Zealand. I represented Eureka, California, back in 2003. And upon coming back to our country, I was stopped. They took me off the plane there. If anyone's been to LAX, right there at the beach, they had a bus waiting for me, and my last name, being Arabic, means judge in Turkish. And I was sequestered for about 2 hours. I had already been in the Coast Guard 20 years. 20 years. They took me off, and I had to prove that I was who I said I was. And now we're dealing with ICE. We're dealing with an agency that's getting $150 billion. How do you fight that?
I've been fighting them nonstop.
Yes, sir, I know you are. I know you are.
It's a violation of our privacy. It's a violation of anti-surveillance practices. You're spot on.
Aside,
our Latino community is suffering. Our citizens, our second generation citizens, are wondering, are we next? Are we the next tier? Having been a history major, I studied a lot of World War II and the Axis powers coming up in the 20s, 30s, and to the World War II times. We're seeing a lot of things that we saw back then. A lot of the tyranny just raising itself again in the form of this Trump administration, which is just brutal. They really are. If I take a look at Trump, I see Hitler in Trump. I really do. I don't want ICE in our community. I don't want ICE in Clatsop County. I coached, I moved here in 2014 to Clatsop County, and I coached high school. I coached Astoria High School. I coached here in Astoria. I coached Seaside High School. And I just, I coach swimming. Swimming is my thing. I love my kids. I see them entering the service now and doing service for their country. I'm concerned for them coming up, the young generation that are dealing with this. And I'm really concerned with our community and our prices and just all the things we're all dealing with a lot. I'm really scared that ICE is going to come into our community and they're looking for the next tier because they run out of people to go after. And I really need you to, in Washington, along with Jeff Merkley and all the other senators, to get Kristi Noem the hell out of that place. And she's got no heart, she's got no soul, she can do whatever she wants to. And, I thought I'd go into my retirement years, and I thought I could just kind of drift away in the sunset and come to Astoria and be part of the community and everything, but I'm scared. I'm scared as a veteran, 30 years serving this country. When they told me to jump, I jumped. I go back, I just took my wife to Alabama, and her father-in-law, my father-in-law, he asked me, so where was your family from again? They were from Hungary, because they left Russian occupation. I'm scared, sir. I just want to let you know, because my service, I just don't think with ICE, with their $150 billion, cares a shit about me. And the other veterans and Latinos and all the rest of the generations of people that have been here a long time that helped their country and helped build their country, I just think that they don't care. They don't care. It's just like a wrecking ball going through. We need you to fight. We need you to Newsom fight. Just like Newsom's doing in California. We need to change things. We need to change the way that we fight. And Senator, we need you to lead that fight. You and Jeff Merkley, we need to lead that fight. I watch you in Washington. I see what you do. I don't always agree with you, but you're there fighting for us, and I expect you to fight for us. And that's why we're here today on a Saturday afternoon. We could be at Short Sands Beach surfing or something,
Let's give him a standing ovation, everybody. Right now. Now I'm going to take a minute to respond to the incredibly important points the gentleman's making. And I led the opposition. Sir, if you're watching C-SPAN in the middle of the night, you probably saw the hearing. I led the opposition to Kristi Noem's guy to head the agency. And he was a guy I thought was deeply flawed. He had abused people in the past in similar positions, and I'm concerned that he's still doing it. So that's number one. Number two, my parents fled the Nazis in the 30s. Not all got out. My dad joined our army. He was one of the famous Ritchie boys, and he taught me one thing, and it has grounded my work in privacy and surveillance. And he said, Ron, the worst thing to have to fear is the knock on the door in the middle of the night. And we are still dealing with essentially that. Is people, we heard yesterday, get this, we heard yesterday that people were being tricked into coming to proceedings on immigration, and they were told that, oh, if you come, we're going to look at your particular criteria, and then we'll evaluate it, and the person comes thinking it's on the level, and then is whisked away. That's what's going on out here. So I'm committed to staying at it until we change these things. We had a long meeting with all of the advocates for these organizations. There has been so much lying and so much cheating. I don't know if you know, the head of the whole deportation effort is this fellow, Mr. Homan. And we heard, well, get this, we heard that he was coming to Portland. Did you hear about this? So I didn't want him to come, but I figured if he was coming, I said, I'm going to write him a letter asking him to come to a town hall meeting like this. Never heard anything. Well, 2 days ago, he skulked into town without letting anybody know that he was here. He didn't meet with the press, and I don't think that's accountability, and I don't think that's a commitment to public service, and I'm going to follow this up as well. And thank you for speaking out. We need advocates who are going to take on ICE, and I'm committed to doing it. Thank you.
Number 266.
You guys can practically take the day off after you hear that, because that is so powerful and so important. Let's give him another round of applause because it's so consequential. And I do think the fact that Mr. Homan didn't have the nerve to even say that he was here and say that he wouldn't find time to meet with Oregonians is just an example of really how little interest they have in hearing from all of you, and I'm going to change that.
He's a hot
That's a good way to put it.
He's a hot
I will. You got it. He sure did that this week.
So number 266.
Thanks for coming. I think we all know what the elephant in the room here is. We have a malignancy in the White House. And we're having to deal with fait accomplis every day. He does stuff that we know everybody says is unconstitutional, and he gets away with it. There's nobody stopping him. I have lost my faith in everyone in elective office because they're the ones that are supposed to represent us, and they've all been rolling over, or most of them. And now it's expected for the populace to come up and stop this guy. How are we supposed to stop him when he's screwing with the election process? I really don't believe we are going to have an election in 2026. He's going to declare a military emergency or something, and the people in Texas are giving him his redistricting to give him more representatives. How are the Democrats ever going to fight this guy when he's rigging the system? We see it every day on the news. Every day he's getting away with stuff, and nobody is stopping him.
I hope all of you could hear this. Because, where did he go? There he is, second row. Because every day I spend my time pushing back. I just described specifically what I did to lead the opposition to Kristi Noem's guy. Apropos of what you're talking about, I was getting ready to talk about Doge. I think Doge is one of the biggest threats to your liberty and privacy imaginable. I'm leading the effort. Nobody would have even known about what Doge was doing unless I had blown the whistle on it, which was at the beginning of the year. So the point is, I'm spending my day pushing back, and I know how strongly you feel, and what we're going to have to do is mobilize like we have never had in our lifetime. And that's what's so stunning about this. In my lifetime, I was director of the Great Panthers for 7 years, and I thought I knew something about the processes of government. Donald Trump has turned those on their head. He basically decides what is his whim for the day, and then he says he's going to do it regardless of the laws. And so what we have to do is push back in every kind of way. I mentioned the Medicaid effort that I took a stand on at the beginning, even though I wasn't sure I had the facts, just because I thought it was so important to vindicate the rights of people. Unfortunately, we were right, and we got it ended, and people got their Medicaid and their medicine and their nursing homes. But I don't dispute with you for a second how great the stakes, are. And I'm concerned that they can do this to anybody who doesn't agree with them, a TV station, a business, anybody. So what we can do is push back, and frankly, I think you're doing a hell of a job here today pushing back on your United States Senator, and I'm glad you're doing it.
Okay, 325, and then we will wrap up with 331. So if 325 looks like identified, who is 331? Back here. Great. Thank you.
My name's Howard Collins. I've got a raspy voice just like you.
Yeah.
So I've been around for a long time, and I am concerned that the Democratic Party has lost their vision, that you're not going to be able, that we're losing the 20-year-olds, the 30-year-olds, even the 40-year-olds. And I'd like to know what the message is going to be, because if we don't overturn in the next election, if we don't get a majority in the House and a majority in the Senate, it's virtually impossible to stop President Trump and his executive orders, because the House of Representatives just backs him up, as well as the Supreme Court. So what is the message that the Democratic Party is going to create to galvanize support? Because without turning these elections that are coming up, we have got, I mean, it's going to be incredibly tough. President Biden was right. This is an existential threat to our democracy. I've never seen it in all the years that I have lived. So I'll just leave it with that question. You know, what is that message going to be, or who's going to put it together? Because right now you're losing your base.
For 2026, they do not want genocide. The base does not want genocide. Let me. I don't believe there are more than a handful of open to all town hall meetings in America today, except this one. And I think it's because the Republicans are frightened to talk about Medicaid. And I think a lot of my Democratic colleagues are not willing to go out and talk to people who don't agree with them. I'm here as I believe one of the only senators in the country standing in, knowing that folks are going to disagree with me on one issue or two issues or who knows how many. And I'm doing it because I believe deeply that we can turn this around. I don't think it's going to be a piece of cake, sir. That's the reason I've been going to these rural counties where Trump gets 70% of the vote. Because when I walk them through what's going on in health care, they say, I'm not for that. 1 out of 3 people in those rural places are on Medicaid. The rest of them have a private policy if they're lucky, and they're going to get hammered. So I'm out talking about health care. I'm talking about taxes. I'm talking about democracy. I'm talking about trade. I'm talking about hold Putin accountable and going after Epstein. I don't have all the answers, but I want everybody here to know I'm somebody who is always going to say I'm accountable to you. I understand that many of you have questions about one position or another. That's the way the process is going to work. But the way we're going to prevail is the way we've always prevailed in America, is we reach out, we get our friends and neighbors, we do it around the values that are really American, and I've heard them represented today. Think about the incredible, where's the guy who just talked about ICE? That alone made this an important afternoon, because what ICE is doing and what I saw yesterday with all those groups of students and young people was something that you couldn't do in a week or two. You had to start today. And so I've been scribbling down all the notes and talking about where we're going to go on health care and taking on prescription drugs, which we haven't mentioned today. But I'll tell you, I guess we're supposed to be done, and I'll walk down and visit with people. This is what it's supposed to look like. At the grassroots level, people are telling me what I need to do. I'm giving you a sense of what I do to use my time to push back I work with my colleagues. I always have done so because that's how you multiply your influence. And I'd only ask this. The hope for America is in the faces of this group. This group is not going to insist on half solutions. You're going to insist on real reforms. I'll work with you till we get them. Thanks, everybody.